It is Duchenne Awareness Month this September across Canada. So I want to say a thank you for joining us during our 30-day awareness challenge. And we have today for Testimonial Thursday, the start of 5 different interviews with Canadians living with Duchenne from coast to coast. And today our first interview is with Clayton Thoreau. Clayton, hi, nice to meet you.
Hi, yes, and you too, and thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Amazing. And Clayton, you are well versed in the podcast space. So for those that are joining us today, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Clayton Terrell. I'm 28 years old, soon to be 29 on September 13th. I was born with Duchenne muscular dystrophy. I was diagnosed at about 9 months old. Had a pretty normal life considering the diagnosis. You know, I traveled quite a bit when I was able to. My mom took me a lot of places growing up. I did my Make-A-Wish trip to Phoenix, Arizona. I really wanted to see the Grand Canyon as a kid, so that was my choice. I also met the Arizona Coyotes hockey team at the time. I had met most of the Leafs players who are my favorite team through the years through charity, but that was my choice. And then I went to print journalism in college. Didn't finish that program. I just kind of didn't really agree with the way journalism was going. So I took a bit of a sabbatical for a few years. And then last year during the pandemic, I started my podcast called Hot Seat with Cognizant Clay. It's just a disability awareness podcast. I've interviewed able-bodied people, disabled people, just anybody who has experience with the disability community. And yeah, I mean, it's been a lot of fun. I've interviewed Rick Mercer. That was really interesting. I was a little nervous at first, but you kind of learn through recording these podcasts that everyone's just a person at the end of the day. I mean, it doesn't matter how famous you are, you're still a person. We're all the same. So, but yeah, here I am. And Jesse's journey, I've actually had the opportunity to interview Perry Essler. That was really good. He was really fun to talk to, and ever since I've kind of just been an ambassador for Jesse's journey, and it's been a lot of fun.
Amazing. And we're so lucky to have you as an ambassador, because Duchenne is often, an understood disease, misunderstood disease. So for those that are kind of just joining and watching this today, Clayton, can you tell people about your experience with Duchenne, what Duchenne is, and, your journey with it throughout the past almost 29 years?
Yeah, for sure. I'll start with what it is because I have a general knowledge. I'm sure many of the people at Jesse's Journey know Dr. Tarnopolsky. He's one of the leading specialists in the world for Duchenne, and I've actually had the privilege to be his patient for pretty much, I think, 23 years. I think I was 5 when I first met him. It's basically just a shortage of dystrophin, which is the muscle that, or the gene, sorry, that produces muscle. So it's the protein that helps produce muscle, and people with Duchenne don't have that. So it's very progressive disorder. You get weaker over time. It's really not rainbows and sunshine, but I mean the therapies and the research that's coming out has been absolutely amazing. Like I think 30 years ago, Tarnopolsky was saying like we were told that it was a losing battle. Like there's no point in even pursuing it, and he's made leaps and bounds with it with creatine therapy and steroids as well, corticosteroids. My journey. So I, like I said before, I was diagnosed at 9 months. So my mom worked in healthcare. She kind of knew something was up. A lot of the doctors told her it was colic, and she was like, "No, it's something else. Like I can't put my finger on what it is." But so I went for a biopsy, I think at 6 or 7 months, and then 2 months later, it was confirmed that it was Duchenne. So she kind of got on top of it really early in my life. So I've been pretty lucky. I think I've been on the deflazacort since age, I want to say 5, it might be 6. So I've been on it for the majority of my life, and I really feel like having her around and in healthcare has really helped because like you said, it's very misunderstood even today. Like not many people know what it is, and I think Jesse's Journey as well has done a good job of kind of showing people what it is. But honestly, like I don't see it as some curse or anything. Like the way I see it, like I can teach people with my podcast and with my disability advocacy that we are just people at the end of the day. Like we just have a shortage of a specific protein, really. And yeah, it's been pretty normal. I mean, traveled a lot, like I said, which was good. Like, I'm not really able to fly or anything now. I've got hip problems, so transferring isn't really the easiest thing. So it's all road trips now, but I've always been a positive person. My mom raised me to, not feel sorry for myself and just live the best you can while you have it, because she's always told me, like, no one's guaranteed a timeline in their life. Like, it's life's too short to worry about things. So yeah, I mean, I just don't see it as a big issue. I mean, I'm a very happy person. I've got a lot of friends and family members to support me. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
That's an amazing outlook, Clayton.
Yeah, I was raised that way. So
And like you just said, around like family and friends and growing up, like were there any struggles in terms of, making friends in younger years and, talking to them and educating them about the disease and about what you live with day to day?
not really. I mean, obviously there's been like kids that don't understand, and they may say something mean to me, but I don't think little kids mean it as vindictive or rude. I think it's just like, I hear what's wrong with you even today, and some people get mad at that. It's like, no, I'll educate you and say, like, there's nothing wrong with me. I just use the wheelchair to get around. And when I was younger, I walked till I was, I think, 11. No, I was 12. I was in grade 7, and all my friends pretty much accepted me for who I was. I mean, I never really had issues making friends. High school was a little bit rough. I mean, but I think it's rough for everybody. I don't think it's fun for everybody. You're growing, you're going through puberty, you're going through so many changes all the time that, I mean, so grade 11, grade 12 was hard for me. I wouldn't say I was depressed, but I just wasn't happy with where things were going. Um, Especially becoming an adult. But I quickly turned that around. When I went to college, that's when I really started making good friends that I still talk to today. So it's been pretty easy, considering. I mean, like I said, a few bullies here and there, but other than that, not much at all.
And it's so true, like you said, it's a hard time for everyone, right? Like,
Yeah.
like you said, puberty and making friends, and it's a difficult time for sure. But I want to go back to what you said about travel. So I know quite a few other men in the Duchenne space that also are big travelers. So, tell us a little bit about your travels.
So I've never left North America. Like, honestly, other than in Canada, I've only been to Quebec. Other than Ontario, it's mostly been American travel. So when I was, I think, 8 or 9, my mom took me to Parliament in Ottawa, and then we went over to Hull, Quebec, saw a few of the museums, like the Natural History Museum there and the Canadian History Museum. And then when I was 11 or 12, there's a little town in Utah called Moab, and it's on the Colorado River. There's like petroglyphs and Arches National Park, which is one of the big national parks there. So we drove from Oakville all the way there. So it was we went through Detroit, and then we went down through like Iowa, and then I saw South Dakota. I've seen Mount Rushmore. That was really cool.
Cool.
Um, we've been to Colorado. We went to Rocky Mountain Park, to
Oh, nice.
the tallest peak in continental United States. It's actually pretty hard to breathe up there because you're up so high. And then we worked our way down to Moab, and Moab is just a little town with. It's one of the extreme sports capitals of the states. Not many people know about it. We went on a Humvee tour, a Jeep tour. Uh, we went on the Colorado River on a boat. That was pretty cool, just to see all the old petroglyph sites and whatnot. And then grade 8, when I was 13, that's when I went to Arizona to meet the Coyotes hockey team. I went to the zoo in Phoenix, Monument Valley in Arizona, and then the Grand Canyon was like my favorite trip ever. We actually flew over it on a tour in a Cessna plane, and that was really cool. I pretty much didn't speak for the whole 2 hours. I was so blown away. And my mom will tell anybody that I can be quite the talker. So she was pretty impressed that I stayed quiet for that long, but I was just so amazed by it. And the sad thing about the Make-A-Wish trip is I picked the Coyotes because Wayne Gretzky was the coach at the time, and the assistant coach of the Arizona Coyotes got caught in a gambling scandal, and he actually got charged with embezzlement and money laundering. So Gretzky left the game early because the media was all over him, assuming that he participated in it. So I never actually got to meet Wayne Gretzky, but I've reached out to his son this year, and he said when COVID's a little more under control, like we'll plan to meet him. So hopefully, fingers crossed, I get to meet Wayne Gretzky finally, because I am a huge hockey fan. I always have been. Hockey's been my saving grace in life. I'm unfortunately a Leafs fan, so I'm a little used to the disappointment. But I mean, hockey has always been up there for me. Sports and pretty much any sport I'll watch, but hockey will always be number one for sure.
Amazing. Well, I have my fingers crossed for you. Hopefully you get to meet him.
Yeah, thank you. It would be awesome because he's pretty famous here in Canada. So
absolutely. And I wish I could talk sports with you, Clayton, but I know nothing about hockey.
That's okay.
But the one thing actually also you mentioned is being an ambassador for Jesse's Journey and through our gaming event, Squad Up. So I know that gaming's also another passion of yours.
Yes, very. Squad Up was really fun last year. I got like 10 of my friends involved. We were just kind of taking turns playing with each other. Like the game we play is Call of Duty Warzone, and there's only up to 4 on a team, so we kind of had to cycle people in and out as they came in from work or went out for the day. We would kind of figure out who could play at what time. And then I played Tiger Woods 2004, such an old game, with my dad against him, and my dad actually beat me. And I game a lot more than my dad. He actually beat me quite handily. Golf is my dad's thing. He's very, very smart with the math and everything that's involved. So it was fun, and this year I'm looking forward to it. I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to play yet, but I think Matt's going to reach out to me in the coming weeks to figure out what time slot I want. But yeah, it's been cool. Gaming has, honestly, through the pandemic, I think gaming, other than the podcast, gaming was like kind of therapy. A lot of my friends were out of work because a lot of them were non-essential, so we would just play video games throughout the day, and that would pass the time kind of. And I pretty much play anything. I play sports games, shooters, whatever. Like I'll play pretty much anything that my friends are playing. So
and a way for you, like you said, to keep connected with your friends during the pandemic when you couldn't see them in person.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, we can't wait to see you again at Squad Up for this year in our community day on September 25th. So we just thank you for being an ambassador and part of our gaming fundraiser Squad Up. And Clayton, I also want to go back to your Cognizant Clay platform. Like, you are really a huge ambassador, not only for Jesse's Journey with regards to Duchenne muscular dystrophy, but just for accessibility and disability related topics. And tell us how that got started and, you know, what you've done so far in terms of your blogs and podcasts.
So when I like dropped out of print journalism, I was kind of like thinking what I could do, and it took me like 4 or 5 years to fully decide like what I was going to do in terms of the interviewing, because I've always really liked interviewing people. Like during the program, interviewing was my favorite aspect of journalism, just talking to anyone and everyone about whatever topic my editor would give me. And it kind of just, when the pandemic hit, I was like, well, disabled people are kind of left on the back burner with all the, like, we had CERB, but then not until November of 2020 did the Canadian government give disabled people funding. So I was thinking, like, what can I do to kind of shine a light on that? So I was on, there's an entrepreneur, his name is Gary Vee, and during the pandemic, he had a segment called Tea with Gary Vee. And since he's an entrepreneur, he was answering questions for ideas that people had for businesses or side projects, whatever it is. And I was lucky enough to be on there. Gary Vee's quite a big entrepreneur of people that know him. I mean, a lot of people don't, but the people that do, he's got like millions of followers. So I got on his show and I told him, I said, hey, like, I'm disabled and I really want to start a podcast that kind of shines a light on the disability community, whether it's able-bodied advocates or people with a lived experience. And usually he's full of advice, and he just said go for it. He didn't really criticize it at all, and he said, I think that is a great idea. And then I think the first interview was May of 2020, and now I've done like 44 episodes. I think I've interviewed so many people, like I said, Rick Mercer, Jay Onright, who's one of the Sports Center hosts here in Canada, I've interviewed George Stroumboulopoulos, Caroline Casey from Ireland. She's blind and she's a disability advocate. That was a really good interview. I've interviewed a few of my friends even that I've met online through the pandemic. So it just kind of took off. Like I didn't really expect it to go as smoothly as it did, but I was just messaging people on Instagram and Facebook and they were getting back to me, and I just kept going. I haven't done one in a few months. I actually took a program called accessible media production at Mohawk. It was an online thing through the pandemic. And then I also have a job with a company called Building You, and so it started by a lady named Tamara, and she was a tutor for a while, did a few other things, and kind of thought that high school wasn't set up for success after post-secondary. And they do a podcast called Behind the Business, where high school students will interview business owners and just ask them like what their business is, how they go about their everyday. So I'm helping them with their podcast. So podcasting has kind of just become almost a full-time job for me, which is kind of cool. I'm not paid yet. It's an internship position, but I'm hoping to try to find employment of some kind. Hopefully in the disability community is my goal. But I mean, like I said, I'm a sports fan. I'd love to be a sports podcast host, anything like that. So it's just kind of taken off. I didn't really expect it to go as well as it has, but yeah, it's going well.
That's amazing. And tell people here how they can find you online to check out the podcast, check out the blogs.
So you can go on cognizantclay.com. I've got all my interviews posted there, but also I'm also Cognizant Clay on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. So any of those 4 platforms you can find me, and it usually comes up right away. I haven't really, like, I've searched myself to see how easy it is to access, and it seems like it's pretty easy to get a hold of me. So yeah, just Cognizant Clay on everything pretty much.
Amazing. And there's another gentleman that you're going to be interviewing, and we'll show that interview later on this month, who is also huge into the podcast and sports and working for sports journalism. And so awesome. I'm sure you two will have a great conversation there.
Definitely.
But Clayton, just to finish off today's podcast, like, what would be your main message for people that don't know about Duchenne muscular dystrophy?
I would say just do your research as best you can. Like, there is quite a bit of resources now, but in terms of like a person-to-person message, I would say like it's not really, like I said earlier, it's a pretty brutal disability. So any donations to Jesse's Journey or Muscular Dystrophy Canada would be greatly appreciated, because like I said earlier as well, the advancements in technology and research is getting there, and I'm really hopeful that the next generation of people with Duchenne will live longer and everything else. Like hopefully that there is a cure one day. You never know. I mean, with advancements now, like look at COVID. They got a vaccine in a year. So I mean, yeah, just do your research, help us out if you can, and just educate as many people as you can about it. Because like you said earlier, Rochelle, like a lot of misinformation and just not knowing about it. So that's really all I can say. I mean, there's not much else.
No, that's perfect, Clayton. And again, for those that are watching right now, please do share this video on any social media platform. We have it everywhere throughout the month of Duchenne Awareness Month in September across Canada. So please do help us raise awareness about Duchenne. Find out more about Duchenne muscular dystrophy at jessesjourney.com. Like Clayton said, our organization has become the country's largest funder of Duchenne muscular dystrophy research, funding $14.8 million to date. But that's only because of you, our supporters and our donors. So like Clayton said, please do, if you are able to donate towards this cause and help us towards that cure and the research to get us there, like you said, Clayton. But I just want to say a big thank you to you for joining us this afternoon and for sharing your experience living with Duchenne.
Definitely. Yeah. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Clayton. And Clayton's going to be interviewing 3 other adult ambassadors across Canada. So stay tuned every Thursday, Testimonial Thursday, as part of our 30-day awareness challenge this Duchenne Awareness Month, this September 2021. Please do share, follow, like on social media, and help us to raise as much awareness as possible. So thank you so much. Thank you, Clayton, and we will see you soon.
Sounds good.